co-chair of the Woodbridge Sustainability Committee. We have a couple other committee members here today. We have Laura. And also we have a couple upstairs as well who are leading a children's program right now. So if any children, John, wants to go up, or if you see any children wandering about, they're welcome to go do some water experiments upstairs. Or today down here we're going to be learning about our own water systems. So we have Ron here from the Regional Water Authority going to teach us a lot of great things. Also, if you haven't already, put your name in the drawing in the back for one of the recreation permits for the water properties, which is very valuable, 2 years, right?
2-year family permit.
Very great, so definitely well worth it. Also, if you want to keep coming to our lectures next month, on February 17th, we have compost. So we're doing these once a month, the third Saturday. Just keep it as a running mark on your calendar. From 3 to 4 in this room. Check out all the great sustainability topics we have. All right, so I'm going to give it to Ron now. Take it away.
Thank you. I'm a senior environmental analyst in the Environmental Planning Department. I've been at the Regional Water Authority for about 38 years. So, considering I'm glad to see everybody out in the cold, crisp day. I know that with the freezing, the snow, the darkness, that's absolutely needed in order for us to actually enjoy that first beautiful April day. Presentation today is a short history of the water company, how we operate, how we protect your water supply, and a little bit about our sustainability efforts. I don't have information regarding private wells, which most people in Woodbridge are, but there's information in the back that I got from the State Health Department. There's also information with your local Woodbridge Health Department. So, back in 1849, the grandson of Eli Whitney, the cotton gin inventor, a group of people in New Haven decided that the city of New Haven needed a water supply. There was the wells that were being used on the green were being contaminated and they weren't producing enough water. And also around that time, 1871 was the Great Chicago Fire. 1872 was the Great Boston Fire. And cities in the country realized that they needed to have an adequate supply of water for fighting fire. So it was for water for drinking, but it was also for fire protection. And that's where it started. Everything went well for about 120 years. And in 1970, the Safe Drinking Water Act came about. And that required surface supplies to be filtered. The New Haven Water Company was an investor-owned organization, so they were concerned about having to raise the capital to build these treatment plants. And somebody came up with the great idea of selling the property in order to raise capital to build the plants. Well, that wasn't a big deal in Milford or West Haven or North Haven because they didn't own very much land in those towns. But in North Branford, it was a big issue. We own 1/3 of North Branford. So that was a problem. These two ladies, Dorothy McCluskey and Claire Bennett, they spearheaded the effort to form a public water utility to get out from being investor-owned and protect the open space land that the water company owned. Dorothy was a state representative for North Branford. Claire was on her staff. And they went around and got the towns within our district to agree to form a public water supply for the utility. And in 1977, through a special act of the General Assembly, the South Central Regional Water Authority came into being, and they acquired the assets to the New Haven Water Company, and our land was protected. Claire also works with our boards. We have 2 governing boards, the 5-member authority and the representative policy board, which is 1 person from each town. They elect the 5-member authority who actually does kind of the go-between our senior leadership team and the customers. Claire spearheaded our open space program. She became the chair of the 5-member authority. She is honored with having the recreation program named after her, and also the Watershed Fund, which is a charity arm arm of Regional Water Authority. So, when you look at this, about 38 years ago when I started, we owned 24,000 acres of land. We've increased that by about 3,000 in my career. We used to produce about 55 million gallons of water a day. We're down to about 48. And that is due to conservation, low flow shower heads, high efficiency washing machines, things like that. So the water demand has gone up, but it has steadily declined over the past 10 years. We do operate 11 treatment facilities, 36 storage tanks. We have about 260 people at work. And we maintain 1,700 miles of pipe through the ground. This is our service area, from the shoreline up to Cheshire, from the valley. When we acquired Ansonia Derby Water Company, which became Birmingham Utilities, we acquired them out to North Branford. This is an exclusive service area, so we are a monopoly. So if you live in Woodbridge, you cannot go and ask Connecticut Water to supply you water. The Regional Water Authority is your supplier, and you're stuck with us. That process is run by the State Health Department. So you have water utility committees meeting and saying, okay, these are our areas that we supply, so there's no competition.
Even if we have wells?
If you're on a well, you're on your own private water
Yeah,
company.
right.
But if you wanted water supplied to your
Got
house
it.
and you were in Woodbridge, you would have to come to the Regional Water Authority
Okay.
for that. We have interconnections with every water company that surrounds us. So we supply on a wholesale basis to Connecticut Water, to Aquarian. We have Meriden Water Company. We have interconnections with Wallingford and Southington. This is our watershed areas where the water, does everybody know what a watershed is? Watershed is an area of land that drains to a certain specific point. So the blue lines around here are the edges of our watershed. So this is the Hammonasset on the Killingworth-Madison border. This is Lake Hammonasset. Lake Water, North Branford, this is our largest supply, it's about 60%. Lake Saltonstall on the East Haven Branford line. Lake Whitney in the Mill River system. The West River system, the 5 lakes. Woodbridge is mostly watershed, is the Weppawag Reservoir. The Weppawag Reservoir is connected to the Maltby Lakes by a tunnel. That is an emergency supply. It's an inactive supply. It's not being used. One of the problems is that the supply is not large enough. It's large enough for us to invest, $50, $60 million into a treatment plant. So right now, it is within our 50-year planning process. We're not giving up a supply, but we're not using it right now. The purple areas are
What's the
the
green one over there on the top of Woodbridge?
the green ones. The green area is our
She said on
property.
top of Woodbridge,
On
there's
top of
2 of them.
Woodbridge, yeah.
There's a small one on the bottom, yeah, right there.
yeah.
Right there, that's the property we own.
Okay.
That's part of Peach Swamp Reservoir. So we acquired that from Birmingham. So this is probably Peach Swamp, this is the Weppawag, and this is the Maltby Lakes. The purple areas are aquifers. We have 5 well fields along Route 10 in Hamden and Cheshire, and also along Route 34 in Derby and Seymour. As you can see, in the Farm River and the Guard watershed, we own a lot of that property. We own over 50% of that. As I said, we own about a third of North Branford. You can see that in the West River system in Bethany and the upper part of Woodbridge. We own 53% of the land there. When you look in Hamden, we only own land pretty much just along the Mill River corridor. So we own about less than 5% of the watershed in the Mill River. This is a close-up of Woodbridge. As you can see, the black lines are the water mains. So Woodbridge is really not supplied by Regional Water Authority water. There is a water main that runs across Center Road out to Remington, Rimmon Road. We have a tank out there that is used to supply wholesale water to aquarium water. Let's see. Up in the northwest corner, this is part of the West River watershed. The 5 lakes in the West River are Bethany, Lake Watrous, Lake Dawson, Lake Glen, and Lake Chamberlain. So those 5 reservoirs feed the West River water treatment plant, which produces about can produce about 10 million gallons a day. During the winter, our demand is about 35 million gallons a day, and in the summer, on a hot summer day, it can get up to 70 or 80. So we have it varies over the course of the season. The main trunk line goes down Litchfield Turnpike, serves pretty much Westville, the upper portion of West Haven, and as I said, it goes out to the tank on Ribbon Road. Lake Watrous, Lake Dawson, this is West Rock Ridge State Park, this is Lake Glen. This is a good example of a watershed. So the watershed divide is along the top of West Rock Ridge. So the rainwater that falls on the west side ends up in the West River watershed. When it falls on the east side of that, it goes into Lake Wintergreen, in the Wintergreen watershed. Eventually they come down and they connect to the West River and flow ultimately into New Haven Harbor. This is the West River Treatment Plant on Litchfield Turnpike. These 2 structures are filter water reservoirs. So when we treat water, because you get a higher demand in the day and it goes down, we want to run the plant on an even basis. So we have the storage tanks throughout our system and at our treatment plants, so they fill up in the night, and during the day they will drop. Water levels will drop when demand goes up, and then we refill them in the evening. So you could run the plant 24/7. You don't have to shut it down and start it up and shut it down. We just recently made an upgrade to the treatment plant process system. The West River treatment plant was a conventional direct filtration plant, which takes the water from the lake, mixes it with chemicals, pours it onto the filter beds, and the filters clean out the algae and the sediment and everything else. What happens is, because the water is dirty and has a lot of sediment in it, the filter times are shorter. So what we did was we actually installed a dissolved air flotation system, which we have at our Lake Whitney treatment plant. And before the water goes onto the filters, the chemicals are mixed with the water, and we bubble air bubbles up through the water. So it forms this scum on top of algae and sediment and everything else. Then we scrape that off, and then the water goes on to the filter beds, and it's a lot cleaner, and we have longer filter times, which is very good for our pumps, our electricity usage, sustainability, and all that. The other unique thing about the treatment plant is we make our own sodium hypochlorite there. We used to, our other treatment plants, we truck in bleach, and we use that as the we use it to protect the water. Here, what we do is we take a salt solution, we run electricity through it, we generate it on site. So this disinfection product is it's a lot easier to use. We don't have to worry about getting it sourced from someplace else. And when we get deliveries in several 100-gallon tanks, the quality of the bleach doesn't, drops off. So that is a new thing that we're trying at the West River Treatment Plant. So how do we operate this system? 1,700 miles of pipe, 11 treatment plants, all that. We have a control room operator who sits there every day, 24/7 at the water company, and he looks at how the demand's being used, the levels in the tanks, figures out what pumps to turn on and off during the day. He keeps an eye on any fire flows, any main breaks, where if there's a lot of usage of water, to make sure that the system's running right. Kind of keeps track of what's going on out in Flushing, people, that are out servicing the system. He's the eyes and ears of the water company. He's in charge of all that. He could do that from the control room at Sergeant Drive. He could do it from any of the treatment plants, and he could do it from his laptop at home if he needs to. So it's pretty much the whole system can be run manually, but it's run automatically. We do have treatment plant operators that are there during the day, keep an eye on the processes and everything, making sure everything's running smoothly. The computer system that he has, we collect data on over 5,000 different points. So we're looking at water pressure, we're looking at the level of the tanks, we're looking at what pumps are on, if there's an emergency generator running, how long our wells are running, how much flow is coming out of the lakes, how much is going into the distribution system on a minute-by-minute basis. So over 5,000 data points collected every minute generates over 7 million data points a day that we have access to, which is not all, we don't pay attention to a lot of it, but we all have that information. And the important ones, because he can't keep track of everything, they're alarmed. So if there's if a tank starts draining too quickly, the alarm will go off. If the turbidity at West River goes up too high, an alarm will go off. If we lose chlorine at one of the chemical holding tanks, the alarm goes off. So everything is alarmed in case.
Turbidity?
Turbidity, that's how clear the water is. So that person keeps an eye on that. So they're 24/7, we run 3 shifts. We have a state certified laboratory. So we have 2 people going out Monday through Saturday, collecting samples throughout the distribution system. They bring the samples back, they are run at our lab for, hundreds of, I think they collect over 1,000 samples a month, and they actually produce about 10,000 tests on those samples a month. So it's a huge undertaking, and then all the reports go up to the state health department. This is a backflow prevention device. So if you own a business or an industry and you're using water to produce something, you have this in your building. And what this does is make sure that if there's a low pressure situation, that the water that you're using does not go back out into the system. And we have people who are licensed professional plumbers go out and they actually look at the plumbing in your building to make sure that you're not misconnected to something. And they test these things on a yearly basis to make sure that they operate correctly to protect the water supply that we have.
They go house, they'll come to your house?
It's mostly businesses and industries. It doesn't impact residential, because for most residentials aren't taking our water and using it in a process where it's connected, where it can backfeed out. So source protection, and this is my area, our environmental planning department. What it is, it's pretty much protecting the water before it gets to the treatment plant. And why is that important? Well, one thing is, the cleaner the water is, the easier it is to treat. Less chemicals you have to use, less energy in it. It's just good for the treatment plant. Also, if you don't pay attention to it, you'll either end up on the front page of a newspaper, you'll end up in a Hollywood movie, or seriously, people will die. So, and that has happened in Woodbridge. Woodbridge is pretty much, could be kind of where source protection got its legs. On the Dawson watershed, back in 1901, there was a typhoid outbreak. It caused the death of 50 people in Westville. It was traced back to a a farm on the Lake Dawson watershed. There was somebody there who had typhoid fever, and the outhouse was not being properly used, and it contaminated Lake Dawson. They traced that water back. And that's when the New Haven Water Company said, we really need to look at what happens on the land could have an impact on water quality. And that's when they stepped up with property acquisition and the sanitary surveys. Pretty much the late 1800s, the early 1900s is when the germ theories started coming around. Microscopes started coming out, so you could actually see that there's something swimming around in that water that you couldn't see with your bare eyes. So bacteria and algae, that's when everything started coming around, like, we really need to upgrade our protection.
What would the chlorination
Chlorine, I don't know when chlorine started coming into that, but I think it was before chlorine, yes. And back then, cholera and typhoid, dysentery, that was, I mean, who would turn on their tap thinking, one day I could die from drinking this? I mean, luckily we've taken care of that issue, and our water is safe to drink.
So most people, they needed the pure water.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
In many parts of the world, in typhoid and cholera areas of the world, everybody boils their water.
Yes. Yep. So, this is Lake Chamberlain, and you can see that it's pretty much surrounded by forests. We own that land. Our source protection efforts for Lake Chamberlain are minimal. If all of our watersheds were like this, I would have a very boring job. Luckily for me, we have Lake Whitney in Hamden, which is probably one of the most developed public water supply watersheds in the state, if not New England. We have a golf course next to it. We have roads running along it and across it, high-density residential areas. This is Dixwell Avenue, which is pretty much all paved. As you can see, this is Mather Street. So when you look back at the watershed map and you see that we only own 5%, well, this is what the other 95% is, and this is where we have to focus all our efforts in protecting this water supply. So what we're up against, we have I-95 crossing Lake Saltonstone, sanitary sewers in Hamden. We have 150 garages and gas stations, although I'll say now that they are so regulated, they're not a concern for us anymore. Their tanks have been all pulled out of the ground. They have a Veeder-Root system that checks their volume so that if there's a leak, they would know it. Their parts cleaners all go out to companies that take the solvents away. You can't operate a gas station or a service station and pollute the ground anymore. That just doesn't happen. Same thing with dry cleaners. We have our 280 high-risk sites. Those are the sites that use chemicals, dry cleaners, machine shops, furniture making, things like that, electronic shops that use solvents. We have identified all those sites, and we make sure that we inspect them on an annual basis. We are concerned about outdoor storage of chemicals. You can see here where some of these drums have been leaking. We're concerned about a lot of housekeeping activities, just trash and people storing stuff, dumpsters. This is a grease dumpster that causes a lot of problems for us, for restaurants. We're concerned with agricultural activities. Now, I know for a fact that there is a difference between a horse farm in Bethany and a pig farm in North Branford. It's two different, it's still agriculture, and there are some concerns with agriculture, handling the waste and everything like that, but it's a whole different ballgame. Erosion controls. during construction sites. Sediment, you dig up the ground, it becomes exposed, you have a 3-inch rainstorm, and look what happens. This silt fence was actually installed 3 days after the rainstorm. This all went down and filled in a wetland and a stream. It was on our watershed in East Haven. Here's another thing, they put in an 8-lot subdivision. They pretty much leveled the hill to flatten it out. We had a 4-inch rainstorm, and pretty much the side of the hill ran down into the neighbor's backyard. The house is right about here, and the lady had 4 inches of sediment on her, back up against her house. The sediment, the dirty water runs into catch basins, turns our streams pretty much chocolate brown. This is not only a problem with, the water supply, but it's also an ecological problem. So all that sediment is pretty much covering all the rocks and the macrobenthos down there, which causes problems for fish, oxygen, and all that. So this is definitely more than just a water quality issue. Sanitary sewers. We have sanitary sewers partly in North Branford, mostly in Hamden. A lucky thing for us, the Greater New Haven Water Pollution Control Authority is now running the sewer system, and they are doing a very good job of maintaining the systems, doing preventive maintenance, upgrading the systems, so we don't have very many sewer overflows. And when they do have them, they call us, they call the control room immediately. We have somebody out there, we look at it, where's the sewer going, and we have shut down Lake Whitney just because of that, as a preventive measure, to make sure that the sewer, even if it was going into Lake Whitney, or if it wasn't, we shut it down, just to make sure that we don't have that issue. We have car accidents and spills. I don't know how you could crash into a gas station and not have a big fireball and a total disaster. Nobody, I don't think there was any injuries from this. We have illegal dumping. Our 27,000 acres of land, a lot of that is in areas that, are kind of out of the way. They're not well lit, there's not a lot of people around, so we have a lot of dumping. Especially last year, we had 3 different episodes of dumping of tires. We had one in the West River, we had 2 in Hamden, and they all happened within probably 6 months of each other. And they were all about the same amount, 200 tires. And one of them was on our property. And to get rid of a tire, it's about $5 just to get rid of the tire, not to mention the labor to put those tires into a truck and then ship them off to Southington. So that was a big concern we've had.
So if we see something,
Yeah.
call.
So,
You don't have cameras up? Cameras? No, put cameras up to monitor?
not because it's spread
Too
out so
spread out.
much, we probably couldn't do that. I know the West River Watershed Coalition has a big issue with Marginal Drive, that there's dumping there all the time, and they've been thinking about getting West Haven to put up a camera there to see what's going on. So how do we protect with all those concerns we have, how do we go out and protect public water supply? Through land acquisition, buying property is probably the best and highest way to do it. We do raw water monitoring, watershed inspections, site plan reviews, Hazway Central, regulatory systems, education and outreach. So this is our property map. The red areas are the property we've bought since 1997, so it's over 3,000 acres we added to our property. Purple areas, you can't see them that good, but those are the properties that we have a conservation easement over. So we work with local land trusts and towns, and if they come up and they want to buy, property comes up, and let's say it's close to, like Brooks, these are all by Brooksdale Park. So it made sense for the town of Hamden to own these properties to expand Brooksdale Park. So we didn't want to own it, but we were willing to assist with them. So we donate money towards that, and in exchange get a conservation easement so that there will never be anything built on those properties. So that happened to the Wallace property in Woodbridge. We assisted in the town's purchase of that, and we bought outright another piece of property in Woodbridge along the Wet Walk River. The other thing to note is that even though all this white space we don't own, a lot of that property is protected. Because the Hammonasset Fish and Game, they own a lot of property along the Hammonasset River and their area, and that has a conservation easement over it. When you look in Hamden, Sleeping Giant State Park is not shown on there, but that's open space, that's protected. And Cheshire's doing a very good job of protecting open space. We have a person who actually goes out from May to November on the boat, and he goes to the reservoir and he takes samples looking for algae and phytoplankton and metals, iron and manganese, checking the water quality to find out which is the best intake. We have at our lakes, we can take water from different levels, and the water quality through the water column actually changes. So in the summer, the top part has a lot of sunlight and algae, and the bottom part loses oxygen, and therefore you get your metals dissolving into the water column. So what we're doing is we're looking to find the middle sweet spot where we get the best water quality. We're also starting a monitoring program out in the reservoir, so we'd be going out, taking samples at different streams and everything, checking the water to make sure that it's a high quality and that there's not any problems. Our watershed inspector goes out and does inspections on a daily basis out to the watershed, knock on the doors, talk to the property owners. He will look at things such as chemical storage, fuel storage. He looks at any stormwater management they have there, looking at the catch basins. How is the parking lot? Are there oil spills on the property? How are they storing their? Do they have any drums or 5-gallon pails in the back that aren't covered? Things like that. So he does that on a regular basis. I review site plans. Any activity that goes in front of planning and zoning or inland wetlands within the watershed areas, they have to notify the local water utility. So I get site plans from developers, anything from change of use, let's say a bank becoming CVS or something like that, subdivisions, industrial properties, expansion like that. I sit down, I look at the site plans, review it, we send comments to the local land use commissions regarding stormwater management, impervious surfaces, fuel storage, interior drainage, things like that. So we kind of do, it's like a proactive approach to source protection, making sure that the problems are fixed before they actually get out on the watershed. In Hamden and the Lake Whitney watershed, because we don't own very much property, there are actually direct stormwater discharges into the reservoir. And we don't have that anyplace else because we own so much property around the lakes. So our concern was that the stormwater that's coming into the lakes, that should be treated before it gets into the lakes. And we decided back in the early 90s that we needed to put in, with the building of the new Whitney treatment plant, that we needed to do a watershed management plan to go and take these direct discharges into the lake and have them treated before they go into the lake. So this system, what it does, it has several functions. It first gets the water, we identified all the direct discharges into the lake, and then we just started spending millions of dollars digging holes and trying to protect it. So the systems act as like two or three different cells. The first cell, water comes in, it slows down, and the sediment drops out. The litter, the tennis balls, the water bottles, everything else, you name it, wiffle balls, that all gets collected in an area. And that's easy for us on an annual basis to take the sediment out. As it moves through the system, it goes into what we consider like a wet pond that allows the nutrient uptake. So the fertilizers that people are spreading on their lawn, if it runs off into the stream before it gets to the lake, we actually have these wet marshes, which actually pick up the nutrients and store them in the plants. And then the final step is it goes into an area where it actually infiltrates back into the ground. Because one of the problems of having all this pavement around, you don't have a groundwater level. And all the water gets, flows pretty quick into a catch basin, into a pipe, into the river, and then it hits downstream and causes all this flooding. Where if you have these areas where you actually collect the water and infiltrate it in, you actually slow down the flow of water, but you actually allow groundwater to slowly keep the rivers and streams flowing in the summertime during low rainfall. So that is a unique protection for Lake Whitney.
Do ponds in people's houses help that?
They would do that too. No. We are not alone in this. We're not a regulatory agency, so we can't tell you what you can and can't do. We can just make you wish you did what we told you to do.
Yeah.
And if you don't do what we told you to do, we report it to the local health department, the state DEP if it goes up that high. But most of the time we try and work with the homeowner to fix the problem in the first place before we have to bring somebody else in. We have a good working relationship with Woodbridge. Chris Sullivan is calling and talking to me all the time. I go out to the town, talk to her about some things, what's going on. We have a very good working relationship with most of the towns that we work with. The zoning enforcement officers, the inland wetlands enforcement officers, the regulations that we use. The state of Connecticut has an aquifer protection program which prohibits certain activities within the aquifers, the high-risk activities. The public health code has a lot of environmental regulations. State statutes have environmental regulations. Inland wetlands, every town has an inland wetlands commission. Those regulations protect inland wetlands. Zoning regulations, Hampton especially, they have a whole section about stormwater management. So if somebody wants to build something, expand on the impervious surface, they got to make sure that they treat that additional water on site through either infiltration or swales and green infrastructure, pretty much. So, sustainability. Some of the things that we're doing at the Regional Water Authority, green energy. Energy is a big bill at the water. It's probably the second largest bill at the water company after payroll. It's the amount of energy, it's the pumping of the water from North Branford all the way down to Milford. So we have a 1 megawatt solar array at North Sleeping Giant well field that pretty much powers the entire well field. We have a hydro generation plant at our North Sleeping Giant at our Lake Lard facility because the reservoir is so much higher than the treatment plant. It's up on the other side of Tilcon and it flows by gravity down to the treatment plant. And that energy we use to generate 10% of the energy that we use at the plant. We are working on more solar arrays. One of the concerns that the health department has that they don't want us cutting down forests and putting in solar arrays. So we are looking at solar arrays on top of the rooftops of our treatment plants and pump stations. We're looking at it at our 90 Sergeant Drive facility. Sustainable habitat. One of the environmental issues with dams is that the fish can't get upstream. This is at the Farm River diversion in East Haven. Farm River is diverted underneath Pawtucket Mountain to Lake Saltonstall. There's a dam there where we have a pond where we take water out. We built a fish ladder there so that the fish can get over and head north. But when they headed north, they ended up at Mill Road, another dam, Page's Ice Pond. And once we put that in, talking with the Connecticut DEP, Save the Sound, Trout Unlimited, and DEP decided to build one to get over this dam. So now the fishways can get from East Haven all the way into upper North Branford and Durham.
Which dam is this one?
This is Page's Mill Pond. This is off of Mill Road. So this allows miles of river habitat for fish. One of the big things that I'm involved with is pollinator gardens. So we, decided to jump on the bandwagon. This is our 90 Sergeant Drive entrance. And this was all grass at one point, and we decided, gee, wouldn't it be nice if we, started to put in, pollinator gardens and, instead of just mowing the lawn and adding fertilizer and irrigating it. You can see the front of our building is pretty much really thick green grass and is irrigated a lot. So, but on this side, we put in a pollinator garden. This is along the strip between our visitor parking lot and Asa Abloy, Sargent's. So this is what you call a hell strip. And this is the hell strip of all hell strips. The hell strip is given the area of land between the curb and sidewalk. So it's usually bad soil. It's usually in the baking sun, and the heat from the sidewalk and the pavement is a very tough area to grow things. And this at one point was all mud work that our lake crews were coming down and cutting, and it was all weeds and everything, and spraying Roundup on it. And we said, gee, don't you think we could do something better here? And not knowing anything, on the fourth try, after spending probably $300 on wildflower seeds, another planting we did completely failed. There was problems with communications and who was maintaining the site. We had those issues. Our sustainability committee decided to take this over, and we started planting, and a lot of our employees actually donated plants towards this. So we were getting coneflower, we were getting yarrow, somebody grew lavender for rooting. This problem area is now kind of the highlight of people coming in the spring and the summer to say, oh gee, what's growing now? Or, oh, what's that plant? And people come out and we kind of explain to them what's going on, and plants start overgrowing, we'll pull some out and give them out. So it's kind of been a very huge success in what we're doing. This is on Wade Street in Hamden. We took a 20 by 30 foot area. I don't know if anybody does any gardening at home. Do you know what it would take to dig out the grass out of a 20 by 30 foot area? Well, when you work for the water company and you have 10 pickup trucks and 5 backhoes and 20 people working in the field, this gets done in less than 20 minutes. We were out there and we said, we marked it out where they wanted, and they turned around and said, we're done. And we went, how'd that happen? And they went out there, and the guys pretty much backhoe, dug up all the material, brought it out to one of our, our spoils piles, and we added wildflower seed mix. The problem was we did it in the spring, so pretty much the only thing grew the first year was black-eyed Susans, but over the course of the past 3 years, things have been changing, and we're getting a lot more variety. Hasaway Central is probably one of the first to have a permanently situated hazard waste collection facility on Saturdays, May through October. the amazing amount of chemicals that come into this facility that gets packed and taken by Clean Harbors and properly disposed of. This material would have normally ended up in the regular trash.
So where is this?
This is at 90 Sergeant Drive in New Haven. Open from 9 to noon, May through October. And this is paid for through the towns. The towns get billed for the amount of waste that each town's residents generate.
And our transfer station has days where people can run.
Yep, I think, we have satellites
Yeah.
around, yep. And one of the things, we're really into recycling. In addition to paper, glass, plastic, metal, cardboard, we recycle used furniture. So we give that out to local nonprofits. We'll take pictures of them, send them out and say, here, do you need a bookcase? Do you need, file cabinet? We have office chairs and things like that, and give them away. We do styrofoam.
So
Now-
you accept stuff there? So you accept things there?
No,
No.
we just give,
Oh,
We just-
how do you receive it?
well, if we have furniture that we're not using,
Oh,
instead of throwing it in the dumpster, we decided, okay, we need to, table or desk.
but you don't accept?
Somebody else,
Yeah.
we don't accept it, we're just giving it away. Styrofoam, so we have, we generate a lot of styrofoam for packing. And not only do we take the styrofoam we generate in the office, we actually allow our employees to bring in styrofoam. And that goes to Marcus Paper, and that's recycled. We just started K-Cups. K-Cups became a big thing because we used to have a coffee machine and we used to just drink coffee out of it. We got rid of that and we went to K-Cups. So K-Cup Generations, our sustainability officer found out that we could recycle K-Cups. They go into a box and we ship them out once in a while. Oral care products. So toothpaste tubes, the plastic that is used for floss, used toothbrushes go in this box when you come in the morning. And finally, the little packets of ketchup, duck sauce,
Yeah.
soy sauce. I found out about that. I scratched my head on this one, but when I took the picture, there was actually stuff in it that people were recycling.
Where are they going to though?
I think it's going to the same place where it's going to TerraCycle.
Oh, yeah.
They pretty much need it.
You have a bid for those.
Yeah. And it doesn't cost us, I think it only costs us shipping.
Yeah.
So-
No, well, I don't know, different. They do it different, some
Is
places.
it open to the public? Can I come and see face to face and support whatever?
I think if a business wanted to talk to TerraCycle and do it,
No, but can I come to your?
no, this is just for their in-house recycling. So that's my presentation. Questions?
I have two,
Yep.
to be greedy. I'm on the board of Bethany Sustainable, and I have, the first question is Lake Chamberlain. How are you managing invasive plants? Because on the eastern side of Lake Chamberlain, you've got a lot of Japanese barberry, which brings in the deer and the mice, and that's a cycle for disease. And that Japanese barberry is taking over native plants. So is there any policy or program in dealing with exotic plants?
Yes, there is. We hired an invasive species technician. He works in our forestry department. And he is looking at programs to address this issue. I know we work a lot with the Connecticut Ag Station,
I work there.
Yep, on these things. In addition to the barberry, we're also we're concerned about the horse chestnut in our ponds and lakes. So we hire contractors to pull that out, or the water chestnut.
Yeah.
So we do that. It's a big problem. And we think a lot of it is self-inflicted through our forestry program. So, because we hire contractors to come out and cut the trees down, we think that part of that is bringing, especially Japanese stiltgrass, is all along our woods roads. And we figure that is coming in because of the contaminated equipment that we're bringing contractors in. So we're looking at everything.
I know in Maine they do this as part of the program for maintenance, is controlled burns. Have you ever considered that?
We've done a couple of experiments with control burn and different types of prescriptions to address this issue. We don't have a good handle on it. And it's just that it's a problem that's like, so big, like how do you address it? Yeah.
And my second question, I can't remember, but I think somebody else in the group might remember this. It was about 8-10 years ago, we had a really severe drought where Lake Chamberlain really dropped right down to almost the riverbed. You could see the old stone walls. And I was thinking, what an opportunity to deepen the reservoirs so you would have greater holding capacity. Has that ever been sort of thought about during drought time to take advantage of that?
There's been a little talk about that. The problem is, what do you do with the sediment? It is still public water supply, so if you're out there digging up the soil, what happens if you get a 4-inch rainstorm coming in? Chamberlain, the problem with sediment is mostly Lake Whitney. And because we now have these stormwater treatment systems around, we're pulling out 800 cubic yards of sediment a year. That's not getting into the lake. So the lake was filling they've done core studies, and they actually found out that the lake was filling about 1 centimeter a year. And we pretty much put a stop to that. Because Lake Whitney is a lot shallower. But
so where are you putting that sediment? Because basically with Chamberlain, it's towards the top end, it's pretty shallow.
yes,
And, you've got that material that's high and dry. It was a drought that lasted about 2 months. Where is this material sediment going? Because when you also add that to the sediment stream?
when we take out the sediment, we'll either put it someplace and put grass over it in an upland area, or if it's really sandy and good, we could actually sell it. Or actually, a couple of construction companies actually would take the material. But a lot of times is the sediment, even though it looks sediment, there's still organics in it and leaves and everything else and other debris in it. So it's really not that useful. So most of the time we find an upland area, spread it out and then seed it over it. Because there's not much use for it.
I was just thinking that seems an opportunity to be able to give yourself more capacity, particularly with, populations increasing. Even though,
Future fluctuations.
future planning.
Ron, the flooding that we have in Woodbridge on the West River, does that have an impact on the water supply? And maybe I'll pair with that is any other fix it
Yes.
Woodbridge needs to do?
Yes, flooding is an issue. I would say, up until probably the past 3 years, a 4-inch rainstorm event was never happened. And now we're seeing it, 3 or 4 times a year. So you have this huge amount of water coming down a stream, flooding it, eroding the stream bank because of the energy. We do have algae problems in the West River, and that was one of the reasons why we went to dissolved air flotation, because we didn't want to put all that sediment into the filter beds. We want to have the water that's going in to the treatment plant have a kind of the same quality all the time, whether it's raining or not. We are looking at, right now, putting in water sensor buoys. So we are gonna get real-time data on temperature, dissolved oxygen, turbidity, throughout the water column. And we're putting that, I think, in Lake Garard, Lake Chamberlain, and Lake Source. So we are concerned about it. Source protection doesn't fix everything, especially when you have a 4-inch rainstorm on a construction site. But yeah, we do have water quality issues.
Any other Woodbridge-specific fix-it needs that impact the water supply?
Say that again?
Well, anything else where, the flooding we have seems to impact it? Is there anything else in Woodbridge that has a direct impact on the water supply?
I would say no, because of the northeast corner. It's pretty much low-density residential.
Yeah.
There's no, we have some areas up in Bethany where there's some commercial areas, but for the most part, the watershed in Woodbridge is pretty much low-density residential. So the problems that we would have would be if people were using like a chemical on surface, things of that nature. There's not much industry within that watershed. We own a lot of it in that area, so our source protection efforts, we're not focused on that because we don't have to.
Are there a lot of jobs in Regional Water Authority, openings?
I would say right now, probably not. But I do think we have a job posting.
RegionalWaterAuthority.com jobs?
Rwater.com.
Our water?
I think right now we're looking for head of engineering, looking for a couple of police officers. We have our own security force. But the turnover hasn't been that big lately.
Really amazing to kind of see behind the curtain of all the work and effort and technology and planning that goes into, what we do, just turning on the faucet. How do you think, or, I hope you're really proud, and it sounds like you are, but how do you think about, Greater New Haven Water, Regional Water, as compared to, public water systems or private water systems in other parts of the country? I mean, are you guys kind of at the leading edge, or is your water quality kind of higher than most, or?
I would like to say we're on the cutting edge.
Yeah.
Land acquisition, there's no other water utility in the state that is buying land like we are buying land. Our source protection efforts are pretty much on par with anybody else in the state. Our management is very, you look at what happened in Detroit, I mean, that's criminal. We look at, with our people monitoring the system and going out doing inspections and keeping an eye on everything, I think we're ahead of most.
Yeah. And just in terms of the numbers, in terms of cleanliness or lack of pollution or whatever, I assume there's like a standard you're trying to meet, but you guys are up there, it sounds like.
Yes, we haven't violated the Safe Drinking Water Act, our state certified lab. We contract other water utilities, bring their samples to us. So we're, not only do we our samples, but we contract out. So we are on the cutting edge of PFAS, looking at that. We were the leaders in the state for the aquifer protection regulations. When the regulations first started in '85 talking about it, town of Cheshire pretty much took the lead, along with our help, and adopted the model regulations. And the 10 years that it took to actually get the regulations in place on the state level, all of our efforts kind of got the regulations to where they had to be. You know, it was pretty much field tested in Cheshire. So we're on the leading edge of that. I think we're pretty good. The other thing is, we have a very robust supply. So back in, the 20s, we built Lake Gillard, and the day after we built Lake Gillard, everybody was thinking, okay, we need more water. And where are we gonna get it? They went out to Madison and Killingworth in the 50s. So our supply, when we had the drought, that was like a pretty much a 2-year drought, and we were able to weather that. Aquarium wasn't. They had a
Where's
lot.
Aquarium?
Aquarium in Bridgeport area, Bridgeport, Greenwich, Reading, that area, New Canaan. They had problems meeting their demand. If the drought went on for probably another 6 months, we would have been in trouble. But we were able to weather a 2-year drought because of our supplies.
Do we have a lot of aquifers here in Woodbridge?
Not public water supply aquifers.
Just so they belong to?
So our aquifers they're along kind of rivers, and the geology of Connecticut, when the glaciers receded, as the runoff from that, it separated out the sediments. So our aquifers are pretty much sandy deposits, and they're probably 100 feet deep. When we drill a well, we could take 1 million gallons a day out of that without a problem. And we do monitor that. We have monitoring wells around to see where the water table is, but it does drop over the summer, and then it returns back. So it's not like we're out west where you just, you have a 200-foot deep aquifer, and over the past 40 years, you're using all that water. We are monitoring it to make sure that we're not doing any harm over the course of 5 or 10 years on that. So, but the wells here in Woodbridge are probably bedrock wells, and you're taking out enough for our house, where we're taking out over 1 million gallons a day. Our wells are probably 8-inch thick wells, and your wells are probably 2 or 3.
And can you test our water? Do you test private water?
I'm not sure if we do private well testing. There's information on the back about where you can get your wells tested and what you should be testing them for.
I remember in Monroe that we were trying to pave a parking lot next to a school. And we were told that we can't, so we could, because it was a watershed.
Because it was,
So we were talking about that. Well, that memory.
We've got a little small wetlands across from Peck Pond, and as soon as the weather gets a little bit warmer, we've got the spring creepers, and all through the summer and into the fall, there's a succession of different kinds of frogs in there. We're just having a wild party every night. And my sense is that's a reliable sign that wetlands is in good health. Is that reasonable?
yes, absolutely. That the diverse wildlife in a water body is good, and it's kind of an indicator of good water quality. If it was poor water quality, you'd probably just have a bunch of snails and things like that.
They're having lots of parties.
Yeah. Have a drawing?
I think you better draw it. You got
Go
it.
right ahead.
Oh, no.
You're the honor.
I put my name in, I can't. Literally. That's not mine. It is you. Is that because you don't need your name back? But you will talk to.
I will get your contact information and we will mail you out the permit.
Very good. All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And also, everyone, save the date. We're going to be having our Earth Day celebration this spring. So please, absolutely come. And let's see,
April 27th?
April 27th is the day, Saturday. And you're from Bethany?
Yeah.
Is Bethany going to be doing the celebration? Do you know?
We haven't planned anything, but we'll talk about it.
All right. Very good. We'll come to ours if you don't have.
What's the time for the